David, welcome.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Zubin, thank you so much for joining me. And David, it's great to see you again. I'm always enjoying interacting with the individuals that I got to meet along the way that I didn't invest in their companies and they went on to build monster businesses, so I can relive my terrible decision-making skills and try to come up with the excuses of, was I liquid enough, or was I not investing, or whatever else I come up with for your incredible company and all the other wonderful companies I passed on, like Airbnb and Uber, and all the huge L's I have in my investing career. It's great to see you. It's really fun. You know, ironically, this one does feel easier because you were further along. It was very obvious that your business was growing. Obviously, we got connected through Jeff Nicholson and that connection you had with him from school or what have you. So for everybody who's watching who's less aware of your incredible brand, I'm reminded every day because my son wears them all the time when we play hoops. Tell everybody about your origin story. Give me 3 minutes on that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for all the accolades. Sad to not have you on the cap table as well. So I started the company back in 2013, but the actual origin for the company was in early 2011. I was working at a media company. I was scrolling through Facebook, and I was stopped when I learned that socks are the #1 most requested clothing item at homeless shelters. I felt sad that there was a clothing item, experienced by over 650,000 people in the US, was perceived as a luxury item for something that I had never spent more than a few seconds a day thinking about. So taking a lot of inspiration from Tom's Shoes, which was growing like wildfire at the time. Warby Parker had just launched. I think they were 3 or 4 months old. And I connected the dots and I said, well, man, if this company is donating shoes and this new company is donating eyewear, why can't we create a company where we donate socks? So as Zubin mentioned, I spent 2 years on product development, brand building, trying to identify where in the marketplace we were going to fit, and launched the company in August of 2013. We went on to, grow a company over the last 7 years. We're going to do over $250 million in revenue this year, profitable every single year, and only raised $4 million of capital to date. But probably the two things that I'm probably the most proud of all the success, we've got a team of 150 going to 180 this year. And in 7 years, only 6 people have ever left the company. And then on the giving side, we've donated over 40 million pairs of socks to the homeless communities, both here in the US, as well as some places abroad.
Kudos, brother. It makes me super happy. So in the context of this show and trying to inspire and educate entrepreneurs or executives from Fortune 500 companies, because there's plenty of them that started with billions of dollars more than you did and still don't do that level of sales on .com, which is the insanity of 2020. What's been the biggest changes along the way to your strategies, to your executions? Like, give me 3 or 4 pillars, and maybe even one in the last 6 months, given the State of the Union. What have been some of the pivots or things you've doubled down on, or things you started with? Obviously you started in a Facebook ecosystem where the CAC was so attractive. That's evolved and measured out. Give me a highlight or two that can help somebody.
Yeah, totally. So I think the most important #1 tip that I can give from the marketing perspective is staying relevant. We are constantly, from a creative and marketing side, we're constantly pushing ourselves to think differently, right? And just because something worked 6 months ago doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work today. And I have a perfect example of this. When we hit our millionth pair of donations in our second year of business, we created a video that had no intention of being a marketing video, but just as a thank you video to our customers, highlighting that we donated 1 million pairs of socks and thanking them for their support. And it showed up in the form of, a founder story, me saying, hey, I'm Dave, this is Randy, this is how we created this company. And it was really one of the first versions of that to be used as a marketing vehicle. And so Facebook video was new at the time. And this video took off like wildfire. I think collectively today, over all channels, it has 150 million views. That specific video, I think we can attribute close to $30 million of revenue to. And, once that video took off.
Is that right, David? I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you feel It's funny because I just may hit you up on a favor because we're trying to make people understand that video on these platforms really matter. Do you feel, and I know how hardcore quant the DNA is of your org, you feel confident or like solidly, and heck, even if you're off by 10 million, that you feel you can attribute 30 million in revenue to the video?
100%.
I need to talk to you about that offline. If you it could be a win-win for both of us. So I'd like to talk to you about that. Keep going.
Yeah. So, the number of entrepreneurs and founders that had reached out to me that had said, wow, this video is a huge success. I saw that Facebook did a marketing case study on it and all these things, what video producer did you use and what channels did you go after? And I was like, dude, it's too late, right? Like that story's been told, that mechanism's been used. I always said, it's like, if you tried to go out and create the Dollar Shave Club video right after, that debuted, it wouldn't land with consumers. So, we've built an internal marketing agency and creative agency within Bombas that is the engine actually, which helps drive CAC down. We have continually grown our marketing budget with Facebook year over year at the same efficiency levels that we've had year over year.
Because creative is the variable and you're adjusting
100%.
to the contextuality of both the platform itself, which will always have ARBs with new feature, and the consumer sentiment and the insights you're getting from the quant analysis of the creative itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always say that good creative is the antidote to rising CPA costs, right? You'll have one piece of creative that could last for a year that is driving well below CAC measures for, your average CAC. And that's the creative process, right? And that's why we invest so much in branding creative.
The amount of humans that come to me and say, Gary, I want to do what you're doing and be the face and have all this stuff. And I'm like, look, you're going to have to be good. Like I didn't make a video for the first 15 years of my career before I had something to say. And then I just had the luxury of gift of gab that I never understood or knew I had, Zubin happens to be, handsome. So that works for him. Everyone's got their own strengths and weaknesses, but it really is a game of being quality. I think what we figured out is driving down the cost of creative and pumping up the volume, which leads to consumer insights, is the engine.
Yes. And you have to have your own unique brand voice. And, a lot of times in marketing,
but that evolves because who gets to decide brand voice, right? Like you see it, you look at it like, I guarantee my perception, our incredible next two guests, Sarah and Mark, Zubin, Andrea, like we all have very different perspectives on Bombas that are nuanced. Mm-hmm. All of us might have approved or not approved a video, but I argue that they fall into a pocket. They fall into a general pocket where companies get crippled. And you know this, David, is like they just spend hours debating minutia subjectiveness.
Yeah. I mean, that's where finding your own brand voice and being authentic to who you are and really kind of pushing the envelope, not just copying what other people are doing and staying ahead of it.
It also staying humble and creative. My number one piece of fucking Instagram content of all time is me gloating about being good at eating blueberries. I promise you there was no part of me that thought that was going to fucking happen.
Right. Exactly.
Understood. So Zubin, you got a question?
Yeah, absolutely. So, David, that's what a fantastic story. So you mentioned not raising that much capital, right? And you've been quite successful in growing the company to the $250 million in D2C revenue. For those that are listening that are at a significantly lower run rate, they're looking at growing, they're looking at companies like yours. What are the three things you would tell them to do right now? Because obviously, as you mentioned earlier, like there are things that you've done. Even with the initial commercial, the video spot you did, you recommended the next person not to do exactly the same thing. So at this point, what would you recommend organizations do?
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, I think a lot of it is rooted back in focus, right? I think a lot of times people think that if something's not working with their business, it's because they don't have the right next new product, or they don't have the, next new, way to talk about something, or they're not on the right channel, right? They make a lot of excuses for themselves. But if you stay focused and approach business as a series of hypotheses, right? And try to limit the number of variables that you put into the hypothesis, right? We all learned this in grade school. You can then start to figure out, okay, well, this part resonated because we use this creative on this channel with a male audience. Now let's see if we apply that same thinking to the female audience. Okay, that didn't work. But we know that this channel works, right? We know that this creative works. So how can we then isolate the thing that's not translating from the male audience to the female audience and then start to work on that piece? And that's, again, I think one of the aspects that I think a lot of people miss is that they think they go out there, they see what somebody else is doing, they do the same thing, and they go, well, it doesn't work. And they haven't figured out why it doesn't work, right? They just give up. And so they go, well, it doesn't work because we didn't have blue, right? Blue was the color that everybody must want. And they start to try to chase all of these other variables rather than just isolating, the hypothesis that they originally set out to create. And so I don't have three pieces. I mean, that to me is really kind of
that's game. Listen. One. Unfortunately, we have a crazy lineup. Please, everybody, where can they follow you, David? Because I think you have a lot to offer a lot of this audience.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
David, where can they follow you? Are you active anywhere where you're kind of sharing tidbits? How do you roll?
Me personally, I try to stay pretty quiet on social media. Bombas.com, but look, I do a lot of podcasts. So if you want to search,
Google,
my name,
right?
Yeah, Google.
David, one last very important question. Have you started collecting sports cards again?
I've got one. Collecting, I don't know.
It's back.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Yeah?
I'm being dead fucking serious.
Okay.
I'm going to text you. It's fully back. It's great to see you, brother.
You too, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, guys.